Hey, good work.
Look at this, Griffin. Level 11. I made it to rank 11.
But now you're not that anymore. Nothing gold can stay, pony boy. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. We have something special to talk about today. The day when this goes up, we're recording it kind of the day before that. There's going to be a big change announced for Hearthstone, and I wanted to just like play a couple rounds and chat with you about what this change is, so that we can kind of help get the news out there. We'll have a big article up on Polygon.com.
Here's the gist. They're getting rid of cards entirely. All the things on the cards will turn into actual characters, and you will talk to them in an online world where you will have your own character. You'll cast spells. You'll level up, maybe to like level 110 or so. It's going to be great. There's going to be dungeons, instances, guilds, the whole 9 yards.
Massive change.
A massively multiplayer change.
Now what they're actually adding, they're adding what's called formats to the game. And if you have never played a card game before, you may not know what formats are. So we're going to try and help you out here. So the format you're going to choose is called Standard versus Wild. And we are... what we're playing right now is basically Wild format.
Interesting. So okay, this seems pretty standard to me, so I don't know.
Well, so the way that it's going to be different is... So let's look at something like Shielded Minibot here. You're going to see that little gear in the back of the card.
Yeah, that means it's gnomes v goblins, right?
Goblins versus gnomes. So when these formats get introduced, which will be with the first expansion pack for this year, for 2016.
When is that coming? Do we know that?
Soon. They don't have a date, but I would guess within the next couple months. But when that change gets introduced, Goblins versus Gnome cards, no longer part of standard format.
Okay, I like my Goblins versus Gnome cards, though.
So this Piloted Shredder, nope. They're going to be basically taking Naxxramas and Goblins versus Gnomes. Those cards are no longer going to be included in the standard format, and standard format is, of course, what will be used with tournaments and such. All cards, no matter what, forever, will be included in the Wild format.
Okay.
So the idea is, like, if you want to play anything, you're going to want to play Wild.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Because I am not deep in this world. I think that's insanity.
Sure. Why do you think that's insanity?
Because these are my cards, and I worked really hard to get them, and or spent a shit ton of money to get them.
Well, and so you know, I've talked with Blizzard quite a bit. I went out and saw them when they were originally talking about this change, which was in like October. So they've spent a long time thinking about this. And I talked with the lead designer of Hearthstone, Ben Brode, about this as well. The thing I think that's important is Wild format. They're basically saying Wild format's going to like still be very supported. Wild format's going to have it's going to have ranked and casual.
Okay, same
format,
same monthly rewards.
Yeah, so you could rank up in Wild if you prefer that.
You've stopped talking because now you're playing the game. I feel like the more important thing here is you telling me like how all of the cards I've worked really hard are no longer of use.
Yeah, they're no longer of use. One of the interesting changes is that with Naxxramas, you're going to be able to craft those cards now, and the reason for that is you're no longer going to be able to buy the adventure. So, like, let this video be a PSA to go do that? Yeah, go do that. Yes. That's okay. The other shit I get, like, the game is getting... He's playing a 14-13. Obviously, they lost the plot at some point. But the not being able to buy the thing and instead having to craft the shit piecemeal, that seems, like, terrible to me. Because it's a good, like, those adventures are good value because, like, you get the stuff. Like, guaranteed you get the stuff. The reason I'm genuinely kind of upset about it is that there's a lot of like really cool single player stuff to play through in those adventures, and that's just going to be gone. Yeah, like I think about like when the time comes around for the most recent thing to leave. Oh jeez. When it comes time for the most recent adventure to leave, like we're just going to lose like the sweet escape missions and all that weird stuff. So when I talked with Ben Brode about this, he said, you know, they maintain the right to, you know, maybe at some point they'll reintroduce those adventures, get people back into it. But for now, that's just going to be the way that things are. But the idea is, the major idea is for them to essentially say to new players who are coming in, Standard is the mode to go into. Here are the cards that you want. And don't worry about, like, going back and don't worry about, like, having to catch up on, like, 8 different expansions, because only these cards are currently part of that main mode.
That all makes sense to me. That all makes sense to me. I'm less upset about the fact that there's going to be a mode where you can't use all of your cards because that other mode exists. That's fine. That all makes sense to me. It's the not letting you play and not letting you buy and play the other expansions and having to craft those cards. They won't even show up in expansion packs, right? Like, you have to craft them.
Yes. But again, that's only if you really want to get into wild format.
Is this, so you mentioned, like, if you play card games, like, you know about this. So this is like a thing?
So
this
formats are something that, as far as I know, and keeping in mind I'm not like a brilliant card game guy, but they were first introduced by Magic the Gathering, because basically after Magic the Gathering had been out for a few years, the people making it kind of realized, like, oh, we've got like 4,000 cards. How do we make it so that anybody can play this game without having to purchase all these cards?
I guess it makes sense. Like, I'm more upset, like you said, like, the idea of not being able to get those solo adventures, it doesn't really make sense, because if you can't play those cards in standard, then there's not like a huge incentive. But like, that story stuff is really great, and the thought of like losing that, like Naxxramas, whatever. Like, all I had was like some fun chat dialogue here and there, and a lot of stuff about spiders.
But it's gotten increasingly awesome.
It's gotten good
with each adventure. Yeah, like they've introduced cooler and cooler shit. So yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah, it seems like you're really throwing the baby out with the bathwater with that idea.
I think there's 2 things. It's very much about getting new players in and having it be really approachable and easy for them, on the one hand. And then it's also about making it easier for Blizzard to add in new cards that actually really change the game. Because right now, like, they have stuff like Piloted Shredder, where it's like it would be hard for Blizzard to introduce a 4-cost card that is as good as Piloted Shredder without just totally breaking the game.
Well, then nerf Piloted Shredder. Like, well, that's sacrilegious. I totally get it. Like, the numbers game of Hearthstone is hard to tweak without like making cards that used to be essential. It's a binary for a lot of this stuff.
It's funny you bring up nerfing, because we should. Here's another important thing to mention. So they're going to be doing this once a year. The first expansion of every year, they're going to rotate out expansions from like 2 years back, basically, is how it's going to work. Oh boy, I'm getting iced here.
Yeah, you're about to get.
What's interesting is they're also using that as an opportunity to go back to cards from the standard set and nerf those. They were not willing to give me any 100% for sure direct examples. But the one that they basically, like, they more or less said, yeah, we're doing this one, was Druid's Force of Nature Savage Roar combo.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Which
as I like to call it, I'm winning, I lost.
Yeah, that combo has ruled the game for Druids since launch, basically.
Yeah.
And their idea, again, here is not necessarily to say we need to nerf things because they're too powerful, or not even necessarily to say this is overpowered. It's the idea of, like, they want to have room to introduce new stuff. So the idea is, like, there's nothing we could introduce to Druids that's not overpowered that would cause them to stop playing that combo.
Sure. That makes
Every
sense.
Druid deck that's the most successful is going to have that combo just because it's so powerful.
And that's boring as hell.
And that's boring as hell. But yeah, so once a year, this is going to happen. Things are going to get rotated out. You're going to want to get your adventures before that happens. In my
seriously, do that. Like,
again.
The reason that bums me out is I don't play that much Hearthstone. I pick it up when a new expansion comes out. I play it. I get a few expansion packs. I try to get the good cards from that expansion. When a new adventure comes out, I like voraciously consume that and really, really enjoy those. And the idea of like losing some of that is like, I don't know, man, it bums me out.
No, understandable.
That's it. That is the only thing that you said that bums me out. I totally get that the game. What I meant to ask you earlier, you play way more Hearthstone than I do, and way more Hearthstone than anybody should. Is this something that you think is necessary? Like, are you seeing this like stagnation from these year-old cards that just everybody's playing?
I mean, there's stuff like Piloted Shredder, and like I think another really big example is like Dr. Boom.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
he's in every deck I make.
Dr. Boom is in every deck everyone makes, including like Hunter Rush decks, like this terrible stuff I'm playing right now.
Yeah, it ain't going good.
Dr. Boom's just there all the time. That's not to say, like, obviously stuff like League of Explorers and even Grand Tournament to a lesser extent, they've introduced new decks. They've introduced really interesting cards and cards that have fit in. But there's always that sense of like, well, here's something that you can't really get rid of unless you just introduce something crazy overpowered.
Yeah.
And I think that is what Blizzard is trying to push against. It's gonna be. I'm curious to see how the community reacts. I think there's gonna be a lot of anger about it, and I understand where that's coming from. But my gut is that Blizzard is doing this for the right reasons. One other thing that's worth bringing up, worth mentioning, to kind of deal with the fact that there's going to be two new formats, or two formats, I guess, versus just one that's existed. They are going to be finally adding more deck slots.
Oh, wow. So thanks. That's good, and but like, come on, like people have been asking for that for like 100 years.
Yes, I agree. But basically, right now you can have 9 deck slots. They're going to double that.
Okay.
So you're going to have 2 pages of deck slots. And apparently, how it's going to work is when you're in your collection here, putting stuff together, it's just going to auto mark a deck as either wild format or
interesting,
based off of which cards you put in.
Do you think it's going to give the game a shot in the arm? Like, I honestly don't play that much Hearthstone anymore, aside from when we make our videos. But I still love the game. Like, I still think it's like one of the coolest games. I'm wondering if this is going to like get me into it, or if it's gonna like put me off the thing well, I guess if it comes out at the same time as an expansion, I'm gonna get back into it no matter what.
I mean, I think timing it with the expansion is smart, and especially doing that once a year with the expansion. It's not only like every expansion is always an exciting time for Hearthstone, but now that's even more exciting on a level, because it's like not only is there a new expansion, but a bunch of cards are gone from the standard format, and there's this sense of like completely new, like, what decks work now. Like, I can't even wrap my head around, and I'm excited to see the people who know how to make decks do so. I cannot wrap my head around like what our deck's gonna look like when Goblins versus Gnomes are at.
Did Nax introduce Death Rattle, or was that in the base set?
Death Rattle was in the base set, but not to the degree that Nax had it. So let's look at
Nax went
cards.
crazy.
We can just like look at some of the stuff that's going to be gone. So we've got Poison Seeds, Web Spinner. That's huge. Web Spinner's played a lot. Duplicate's a really big mage one. Avenge. So Avenge is Naxxramas. Dark Cultist. That's a big priest card. I know, whatever. That's nothing. Reincarnate's pretty big for Shaman. Void Caller's pretty big for Warlock. Actually, Void Caller is huge for Warlock.
Yeah.
Deathspite is huge for Warrior. You've got Undertaker. Zombie Chow, like the best one drop in the game. Mad Scientist, of course, giant for hunters and for mages.
Echoing Ooze can get pretty gnarly with the right buffs.
Ruby and Egg, that's massive.
Death Lord.
You're seeing
Sludge Belcher. Fuck.
Sludge Belcher's out. Lothab's out. Like these are big cards. And even stuff like Kel'Thuzad, where there are a lot of interesting Kel'Thuzad decks. Those are out of standard format. And then Goblins versus Gnomes, it gets even.
Peace out, Annoyatron.
You're gone.
Get out of here.
Annoyatron's gone. Mech Mage over. Mech anything over. Micro Machine, Mech Warper, they're gone.
Well, not all mechs. There are mechs in later stuff.
But like a mech-based deck, I feel is no longer going to be viable, unless the next expansion introduces a bunch of mechs, which is possible. Yeah,
you got me a little bit more excited about it than I was. Honest to God, the only thing that bums me out is the potential to lose adventures.
The one thing I will say is they have improved their attitude on it. When I originally went out and talked to them in like October, their initial idea then was that when a set gets removed, you can craft the cards, but you'll no longer be able to craft the goldens.
That's dumb.
Their idea was like the Goldens will only exist as like a status symbol to show that you played at this time and got this. And I was like, that sucks. Which thankfully I believe they have gone back on. You will be able to craft regulars and Goldens of sets that are no longer in standard. But a couple final things just to throw out here. Arena will be wild format.
Oh, forever. Cool.
So everything will always exist in Arena, which I feel like is as it should be. Like, just let Arena get more and more effing crazy. As I said, the esports stuff and tournaments, that's going to be totally just the standard format.
Makes sense.
Outside of, like, you know, I assume they'll probably every once in a while do like a special wild format tournament. And then as far as what is the new 2016 expansion, all they say is it's really, really cool. I'm excited to see how it is. Curious to see how people react. I think there will be some anger.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. If just based on my how it hit me first earlier in this video, just rewind this video and hear how it hit me. Not great. You may as well say, Griffin, I'm taking your cards away.
And I am actually taking your virtual cards away.
Well, shit.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with more Hearthstone stuff soon, and when that change hits, we'll definitely do some videos talking about what the hell decks people are even going to play now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.